So I uploaded a testimony of an experience that happened to me when I was in the hospital, and I believe I heard God speak to me and say, "My son Jesus, the Nazarene, who died on the cross of Calvary for the entire effing universe's sins." And I uploaded that, and I'm in that video, the long version that is, video, I said that I believe that I've heard God speak to me 5 times. So that was one time that it happened, that has happened in my life. Another time is which was the first time, and the first time was when I was in my 30s. I'm 51 now. But when I was like 31, 32, I was praying to God and to hear his voice, because I was going to churches and people were saying God spoke to me, or God said this, God said that, and I've never had that experience before. And for me, I wanted to have that experience. So I prayed for a week or two, and this is all after I read the Bible from the beginning to the end one time in my life, and then a year or two later I picked it up and began studying it rather than just read it. And I started to implement the things that I was reading in the Bible into my life when I was like 30, 31, 32. And anyway, so I'm in those years, and I'm praying to God with like a disciplined lifestyle, putting God first in my heart and my mind. And I prayed for like a week or two straight, wanting to see God's face. I'm sorry, to hear his voice. And I was at work one day, and all of a sudden I got really sick feeling out of nowhere. And I went home and I went to bed. And when I was in my bed, I like was in this state where you're like half asleep, half awake. And, my body's aching and my head's hurting. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, with nobody in the room but me, I hear from the outside of my ears, like it went into my ears, like I could, like someone was in the room speaking, but there was no one there. And I heard, "Your words shall be committed." And I didn't know what that meant. And I went years without knowing what that meant. Anyway, I eventually looked it up, and it's pretty serious stuff. And I believe God spoke to me then, basically saying what that means is that I'm going to be held accountable to what I say. So my channel that I created is no joke. It's real. I'll be accountable to God one day on it. And my testimonies are true life events that have taken place in my life that I've uploaded. So that was 2 of the 5 experiences that I've had. A third one was when I created the YouTube channel back in 2023. At least I started to, and then I took it down. And I took it down because I was in fear of my life from an outside source. It was just what I was going through in my life at that time. And I took it down, and I felt like I betrayed God because I believed God wanted me to have that channel. Anyway, so I was crying in the back of my work, and I was outside the back door, that is, and I was crying, and I felt like I betrayed God for taking down my channel. I was that serious about it in my heart, and I felt like Peter, who betrayed Jesus when the crow crowed the 3rd time. I mean, that's how heartfelt I was, and feeling in betraying God by taking my channel down. And then all of a sudden I heard out of the sky, "I love you," and that made me cry even more, because I was trying to figure out how I was going to live the rest of my life not being a part of God anymore, because God wouldn't want me. But I heard "I love you" in that moment. Out of the sky it came from, it seemed, and that made me cry even harder. And then after that, that was the third time. The fourth time happened probably 2019. I was working for a friend and painting houses, and we were prepping this mansion house to paint it, and we were on a sky lift. And while we were on the lift, all of a sudden I fell to my knees, because like God was speaking to me about my family member, and how he was like just telling me how good the person is. And it made me cry. And my friend standing next to me, he probably thought I was crazy, but I was crying, saying, "Thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God," out of nowhere, on my knees while I'm at work. And that happened out of nowhere. And then the fifth time that God spoke to me was where he reprimanded me. I basically was drinking liquor and smoking cigarettes, and I think it's to do with the liquor and my lifestyle I was living at the time, because I've been smoking cigarettes like my whole life, and I've had God speak to me many times. Well, those times that I've mentioned, that to me that's many times. But this experience was scary, because he reprimanded me. He had me get out of my chair that I was sitting in against my free will, and I walked like 4, 5, 6, 7 steps. Then I went to the ground, and I was being forced in all of this. It was against my free will, and while I was on the ground in panic mode, because I was in fear, because I never had an experience like this before. And as I was moving, like taking steps, I was like in fear of what was going on. I was trying to resist it, but I couldn't. And then I was put to the ground. And once I was to the ground, I was no longer in fear. I was trying to figure out what's going on. And my heart elevated, my breathing changed, and my eyes were like wide open as if they were going to pop out of my head. And I rolled to the left, I rolled to the right a little bit to see, like you're trying to get up and you couldn't. And then in my mind, I heard, "Respect our covenant." And then after that happened, I started to say, "There's hope, there's hope, there's hope, there's hope." It just kept coming out of my mouth, even though my brain wasn't thinking that, and I wasn't thinking that. It was just like being pulled out of me. I was saying, "There's hope, there's hope," out loud. And it must have been my spirit or something. I don't know, but it was scary. And then I was like forced on my knees, and I was forced to take my shirt off, and then I was like forced to go back down to the ground, and then on my belly, that is. And then I made so much noise, a family member heard what was going on in the garage and opened the garage door from the house and yelled out, "What's going on?" And then it stopped. It all stopped, and I said nothing, because how do you explain that to somebody? But that happened to me, and that's the fifth time. So anyway, these are all true stories. I'm not lying about these events that took place in my life. I'll be accountable to God one day when I pass, and I'm not lying. I created this channel to document things that have happened in my life and upload it so I have them. And I'm sharing it too, because that's what Christians are supposed to do, share testimonies. Anyway, that's about it, I guess. So God bless in Jesus's name.